My relationship with pain runs deep, and it's complicated.
That sounds fair.
On the one hand, I love pain. I love trying to push the outer edges of the envelope of what the pain experience is in a physical sense. And it's also been my greatest teacher in terms of things that I've accomplished, but also my errant ways as well. Pain is truly the only thing that's ever gotten me to change. So it's been my growth accelerator as well as my reminder of when I've gone astray. I think it's learning to embrace it and not being afraid of it. And you know, for me, it goes all the way back to when I was a young child. I mean, I was a very awkward, insecure kid who had a lot of difficulty making friends and figuring out what the rules for life were. And I was also somebody who was not athletically inclined at all. I was the kid with the eye patch and the headgear, picked last for kickball and all of that. But the one thing that I was actually fairly okay at was swimming. And when you're good at something when you're a kid and you're having difficulty in other areas, that's what you're going to gravitate towards. And that's what I did. And I learned quickly that I was not the most talented swimmer. But in my early teens, I realized that if I was willing to put in the work and do certain things that other people weren't willing to do, that I could bridge that talent gap and pick up a lot of white space. And that meant getting comfortable with pain, to bring it back to your question. So throughout my teens, I would routinely throw down crazy sets in the pool that no one was willing to do. And I was doing it because I knew I wasn't the most talented, and if I wanted to compete at the highest level, that's what would be required. So it's almost like a deep meditative state, and it's a very one-to-one relationship between the pain that you're willing to suffer and the progress that you're going to make. And I saw swimming as my way forward and my way out. And so what that meant was, the more that I was willing to suffer, the more likely it would be that I was going to create a positive trajectory out of this painful scenario that I found myself in. Well, swimming is a sport in which it's so individualistic, and it lends itself to setting very concrete goals. And those goals for me were time standards. Oh, I want to qualify for US Nationals. Oh, I want to qualify for Olympic trials. So I would have a vision board where I'd literally write those times out in very large block letters with a magic marker and put them above my bed or on my mirror in my bathroom, and constantly reminding myself and reinforcing myself about why I was doing what I was doing. So I don't know that I would have called it a vision board at that time. It was more, but it was more of a practice of engaging in aspiration. Like, I had pictures of all my heroes and all of that, and I think intuitively I was looking towards a better life for myself. By the time I was 18 years old, was an individual who had a lot of promise, and there was a lot of people very invested in my future. I graduated top of my class in high school. I got into all the colleges I applied to, all the Ivy Leagues. I was a top-ranked swimmer, competing at the very highest level, world ranked, the whole deal. And so my future looked very bright. And then alcohol got introduced to my life, and it was a very progressive decline in my aspirations. And at the very end, I was a daily drinker. I was drinking vodka tonics in the shower in the morning and hiding drinks throughout the day, and ending up in blackouts and more than my fair share of incomprehensible, demoralizing situations. And I burned every bridge that I had. I was virtually unemployable at the end. I was sleeping on a bare mattress in a crappy apartment with no furniture in it. My options had been eliminated. My life was eviscerated. My family didn't want anything to do with me. I'd lost my friendships. I had no way forward. And I just continued to dig that hole deeper and deeper and deeper until one day I had that moment that you hear with people who are in recovery, that moment of clarity where I realized I just couldn't live this way any longer. My elevator had, gone down to the bottom floor. And I met my pain threshold, back to this thesis around pain. Like I had reached a point where I could no longer tolerate the pain of my current situation. And the pain associated with the fear of change was eclipsed by the pain that I was feeling in that moment. And that's what motivated me to change. I went to a treatment center where I lived for 100 days, which is a pretty long time to be in a rehab center. And I did that because I knew if I didn't get this right, that my life was done. And so I took that opportunity seriously. I recognized that despite the fact that I think I'm a smart guy, my best thinking had me literally institutionalized, and that if I couldn't get a grasp on how to live and develop some new skills and a new toolbox for how to approach my life, that I was going to end up in jail, or I was going to kill somebody else or myself. That's a great question. I think for me, it's really anchored in awareness and presence. On that staircase, I was able to really understand that I was having an important moment in my life. And the reason I was able to recognize that was because I had that moment so many years prior when I decided to get sober. It was a very specific moment in time where I made a decision, and that decision set in motion a series of events that changed my life so completely that I couldn't imagine my life had I not made that decision. And I was able to see and understand and recognize that once again I was being visited by just such an opportunity. It was something that I could feel inside of me. And I think it's because I'd learned to be present, to be aware of myself and my environment. And one thing I always talk about is the fact that, I'm not anything special with this. I think we're all visited with moments like this in our life, that if we can develop that, the wherewithal to have the awareness around the circumstances surrounding whatever event it is, that you can leverage that crack, in the door to make some significant changes. And I'm somebody who, and I've heard you talk about this before, I'm somebody who when I make a decision, like that's it. I can step over that line or walk through that door and not look back. Like I can be determined, be focused enough and diligent enough and dedicated enough to leverage those moments when I make that decision to really make significant changes that stick and stand the test of time. I mean, for me, I try to keep it as simple as possible. It's about making a decision. And when I make a decision, that decision is done. I've done it with diet, I've done it with fitness, I've done it with my profession. And the more simple I can make it, then the easier it is to adhere. Experience. We're so conditioned, Tom, to avoid pain. Every message that we see, every billboard we see, every advertisement that we're exposed to is telling us that happiness can be purchased through comfort, through luxury, through ease. And that's sort of implicit in that is that that's how we find happiness. And I can tell you that I'm happiest and most alive when I'm butting up against the outer edges of my pain threshold. And I'm not afraid of it. And so when I start to feel that sensation, rather than shirk away from it, I realize that's an opportunity to experience a heightened sense of myself and my environment, to really be in a position where everything else falls away and it's just you and your ability to take one step forward. There's a purity to that again is another great teacher. And so in terms of techniques, I've just learned through experience that, just like David Goggins says, when the signals that you're receiving are telling you to stop, that you don't necessarily have to pay attention to that you are capable of so much more. If you can develop the acuity, the presence of mind, and the wherewithal to then take that next step. And when you're on the other side of it, to realize you're still okay and you can take another step. And your horizon extends, and you realize that there's a whole world of potential and possibility available to you that you weren't previously aware of.